iOS. Of my pinball company is Ricochet Pinball, based out of Portland. We have a website too, Ricochet or pdxpinball.com. Whirlwind's good. I like Whirlwind Pinball. Wow, we got all these pinball people in there right now. How did I make the Nintendo purse? All right, that's an interesting story. When I was in a thrift store looking for just raw materials, this like creepy dude was following me around, and he was like, "Oh, here, do you want this? This would look good with your outfit." And eventually, he walked up with a thank you, with a this purse, and I just took it so I could get him to leave me alone. And I was carrying it around, and then in a bin there was some Nintendo controllers. See, it still has the price tag on it here. And I just noticed that it was kind of the right dimension to sit here, and I found this LCD screen, and I just put this together. And this was a pretty short project. It was just an afternoon. It's very hacky. It was more of a gag video almost, and people liked it so much that, oh, here we go. Yeah, look at all the circuit boards hot glued in there. It's still functional. I mean, I've got stuff in here like my lipstick and my phone and whatnot, but I really need to rebuild it. I'm actually thinking maybe a Nintendo Watch or something. That could be fun. I'm not creepy, I'm techie. That could be. The troll army is here. Hi, the pack rat. Thank you, creepy dude. Yeah, if it wasn't for the creepy dude. I mean, this guy was really creepy. I mean, I'm usually pretty approachable, but when they're just like, no. Surf Champ, I know that pinball machine. I think that's one that has the lights up the side and you have a spinner that move them around, and there's a lock up there. No formal education. I dropped out of high school, started racing cars, opened a chain of computer stores after the race car building and racing days, and then I went to those stores failed, and I got into doing chip design, just kind of like bootstrapping myself with these FPGA chips that I was talking about. There's a King Kong pinball machine that Bill Paxton owns. Make a Twit pinball machine. It would definitely have to have like a bobblehead Leo that like comes up out of the playfield, and his head's like, "I'm Leo," and then you like bash his head in with the pinball, and he'll would like, yeah, he may have to be like get some of his swearing clips. Twit pinball, yes. All right, maybe Leo will commission that. Bug him. It'd be a perfect platform to test out my new boards, right? Uh-oh, now I got the chat room going crazy with the Leo. Jameco or DigiKey? Oh, do I have to answer that with my sponsor being Element 14, who also sells parts? Yeah, see how I put a plug in there? Oh, for people in Silicon Valley, I'll be speaking. Should I stop talking? Oh, I might have to stop talking. Ignore them? All right, I'll just keep going. So I'm going to be speaking at Embedded Systems Conference in Silicon Valley. If any of you are interested in hearing like electronic keynote stuff. Element 14 has Arduino stuff, so that's a pretty good beginner microcontroller. Oh, people are wondering what this button is. This is the Intellivision jumping guy. It was in my purse. Someone gave it to me, and when I went to Barbot this Saturday, I pulled it out and put it on my dress. Intellivision, yeah. I never owned an Intellivision back in the day, but after I did the Commodore thing, I got in good with Keith Robinson, who now owns all the rights and used to work at Intellivision. And so he always loads me down with their latest swag. So I'm sure it came from him. I was probably carrying my purse around. And then, what is a good project for an Arduino noob? Of course, blink the LED. You got to get an LED blinking. And then from there, you should probably think about using like an analog input. So maybe put a potentiometer on an analog input and hook the potentiometer between ground and your positive supply rail. And then see if you can get an analog value in and make a comparison in your code so that you can turn the LED on or off depending on whatever your threshold is. It's usually a pretty good, gets you some input, some output. Yeah, and television baseball was pretty good compared to what was out at the time, especially Atari 2600. Why is Arduino better than Microchip, TI, or Freescale? Well, I don't think that's a true statement. They all have their advantages. For instance, I've been using a lot of the TI MSP 430s because they're super cheap. And they have their own internal oscillator, so you just apply 5 volts or 3 volts to them, and they just run. I love LM339 Bill, quad comparator. You can never have too many LEDs, that's right, lots of blinking LEDs. Could you put a spy cam in a pinball and self-leveling and transmit the video from that? Well, I've considered putting a Skype machine hooked to a pinball machine so I could call into the Skype and look down at the playfield, because when you have a machine out on route, you have a hard time knowing whether it's actually operating because the people that own the bar or wherever you have it may not call you. It'd be nice to just be able to dial into it and have a camera that's pointed down at the playfield to at least see if it's on, analyze it to see if you can see a ball stuck or something. Of course, other data being transmitted back would be great, like... Oh, I think you're talking about... Yeah. A playable pinball. I'd consider doing that with Skype, too. I wanted to have photocells that I would tape to the CRT, one for each flipper button. And then you could hold up white pieces of paper on your hand, for instance, and it would trigger the flipper buttons. But you'd have to flatten out the playfield so the ball moved really, really slow because of the lag. Here's a funny pinball project that I made. That I used a Nintendo Light Zapper, and I put 2 sensors. I took the Nintendo Light Zapper and I put an LED in it, so when you pull the trigger it would strobe an LED. And then under the playfield glass down on the apron, I put 2 photo transistors and little targets so you knew where they were at, and I hooked those down to the flipper buttons. And then you had to shoot at those to flip the flippers. I think there's a video out there. I'm pretty sure I made a video of it. The Kinect, I'm not a fan of Kinect at all. I think that its frame rate's too slow, it's laggy, I've never had a good experience with it. I have an idea how I want to do a cheap and dirty Kinect type camera motion detecting system that uses spatial instead of temporal to do most of the motion detection. Because I did a video compression chip a few years ago, and I worked heavily in areas like motion search. So you can do a lot of stuff spatially. So when I say spatially, you get a frame of video, you can analyze the video within that frame period and determine a lot of what's going on. And then when I say temporal, that's across multiple frames. And I think the Kinect does most of its work temporally across many frames, and that's why it's so laggy, is it's very slow frame rate, and it has to analyze so many frames in the past to actually figure out what's moving. Well, I really killed the chat room by talking about spatial and temporal, didn't I? What do I design my chips in? I use mostly Verilog these days, although I started with VHDL. And I think I prefer VHDL. It's a little bit safer to code in, but everywhere in Silicon Valley uses Verilog, so I have to work with it. Do I do any home automation stuff? Not currently. Although there is some stuff I'm talking to a company about. How was the Hack 5 party? The Hack 5 party was awesome. We had Nerdcore, and I forget the other. Nerdcore, he's a rapper that raps about nerdy stuff. And then there was another guy there that was rapping with him. I'm not a fan of rap, but I really, really liked this. Does anyone know? Was there anyone there? I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time seeing the chat room because there's a camera right in front of it. Could I make Tron come real? Well, you'd have to have lots of lasers for sure. Nerdcore, yeah, it's just Nerdcore, I think, all one word. What were the race? Oh, thank you. They just moved the camera for me. So my racing days. So the racing days, I ran what was called the I-5 Challenge, and it was up and down the I-5 corridor. It was a lot of dirt tracks. They ranged from a quarter mile around the center to a third mile. And they're really like cars. They look like wedges of cheese. They had flat sides. They had spoilers on the back. They had motors that were 500-600 horsepower. You drifted the whole way around the track. Super fun. I got very into modifying the suspension and trying to add electronics to cheat, pretty much. I made a traction control system that got banned and things like that. What do I think of Ben Heck? Ben Heck and I have been buds for quite a while. I like him a lot. We poke at each other on Facebook a lot. But none of it's real. Don't go burn his house down if I suggest it. It's just a joke. If it's too late, if he's already... Yeah, it might be. Sorry, Ben, if your house got burned down. The only MSP 430 project I have online right now is a MIDI controller. So that is a YouTube video called something like Music from Light or something like that. Oh, talk. Testing 1, 2, 3.